The afternoon sun beat down on Whitmore, Georgia, turning the asphalt into shimmering waves of heat. Marcus Stone wiped the sweat from his brow as he watched his students practice their forms in the dojo. The air conditioning struggled against the southern humidity, and the rhythmic sound of bare feet on mats filled the space. At 42, Marcus had traded his Marine uniform for a black belt and the relative peace of teaching martial arts to local kids. His dojo sat on the corner of Main Street and Oak Avenue, a converted hardware store with wide windows that let in the afternoon light. The faded Stone Mountain Dojo sign creaked gently in the breeze outside. "Sensei Marcus," called out Tommy, a gangly 14-year-old working on his yellow belt. "Am I doing this right?" Marcus walked over, his military posture still evident, despite 12 years since leaving active duty. "Feet wider, Tommy. Your stance needs to be solid, like a tree with roots." The other students continued their drills. 8 kids ranging from 7 to 16, most from working-class families in Whitmore. Marcus had made it his mission to keep the fees low. He knew what it was like to need an escape, a purpose. The Corps had given him that. Now he tried to pass it on. Through the window, Marcus could see Whitmore's modest downtown Miller's Hardware, the Sunrise Diner, Betty's Hair Salon, and the post office. Population for everyone knew everyone. That's how small towns worked. "All right, everyone, water break," Marcus announced. The kids dispersed, laughing and chattering. Marcus headed to his small office in the back. Really just a desk, filing cabinet and a few photos on the wall. His Marine platoon, his sister's wedding, his parents' farm just outside town. He was reviewing the schedule for next week's tournament when he heard it. A slamming, hard. Then footsteps, small, running footsteps on the sidewalk outside. The front door of the dojo burst open, with such force that it crashed against the wall. Every head turned. A little girl stood in the doorway, chest heaving, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. Her dark hair was disheveled, her pink t-shirt torn at the shoulder, and there was a scrape on her knee that was still bleeding. But it was her eyes that froze Marcus in place, wide with terror, desperate, pleading. "Please," she gasped, her voice breaking. "Please, you have to help. They're beating Mama." The dojo went silent. Marcus was already moving, crossing the distance in seconds. He knelt down to the girl's level, placing steady hands on her trembling shoulders. Hey, look at me," he said, his voice calm but commanding, the same tone he'd used to keep young Marines focused under fire. "What's your name?" "Sophie," she choked out, between sobs. "Sophie Reed. They're hurting her. Please, you have to stop them." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Who's hurting your mama, Sophie?" "Dederick and his friends. They came to the house," and her words dissolved into fresh tears. "She told me to run. She said to find someone strong. I saw your sign. The black belt. Please." Marcus glanced back at his students. Tommy and the older kids were frozen, watching with wide eyes. The younger ones looked scared. "Tommy," Marcus said sharply, "call 911. Tell them possible domestic violence. Reeves residence. You know where that is?" Tommy nodded, already reaching for the phone on the wall. Marcus turned back to Sophie, keeping his voice steady. "Where's your house, sweetheart?" "Maple Street. The blue house at the end. Number 42. Please hurry. He's gonna kill her." Maple Street. Marcus knew it. Just 4 blocks away, in the older part of town where the houses were weathered, and the yards overgrown. Working poor neighborhood. He'd driven past it 100 times. "How many people are there, Sophie?" 3. Dederick and 2 other men. Big men. Her small hands clutched at Marcus's G. Mama tried to make them leave, but Dederick grabbed her, and she couldn't finish. Marcus's mind raced through the calculations. 3 adult males, possibly armed. A woman in immediate danger. Police response time in Whitmore was usually 10 to 15 minutes. Sheriff's department was on the other side of town. Too long. He looked into Sophie's desperate eyes and made his decision. "Sarah," he called to his assistant instructor. a 26-year-old brown belt, who helped with the younger kids. Keep everyone here. Doors locked. Tommy, stay on the line with 911. Marcus, wait. Sarah started, but he was already standing. Sophie, you stay here with Miss Sarah. Okay, you're safe now. But Mama, I'm going to get her. I promise. Marcus moved to the small storage closet near his office. His hands found the keys, unlocked it. Inside, on a high shelf sat a lockbox. He opened it and retrieved what was inside. His old Beretta M9, the same sidearm he'd carried in Fallujah and Kandahar. He checked the magazine loaded, safety on, and tucked it into his waistband, covering it with his G-top. He hoped to God he wouldn't need it. But Derek's type, men who beat women in front of children, Marcus had seen their kind before. They didn't respond to reason. Sensei, what are you doing? Tommy asked, the phone still pressed to his ear. The right thing, Marcus said quietly. Tell the dispatcher I'm heading to the scene. Former Marine. I'll try to de-escalate. He caught Sarah's worried look. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, or if you hear anything, you get these kids out of here. Understand? She nodded, pulling Sophie close. Marcus walked to the door, pausing for just a moment. He could hear his old platoon sergeant's voice in his head. Never run toward the sound of gunfire, unless you're willing to die there. But he also heard something else. A little girl's terrified voice. They're beating Mom. He pushed through the door and broke into a run, his bare feet slapping against the hot pavement as he headed toward Maple Street. Behind him through the window, 8 kids and 1 assistant instructor watched their sensei disappear around the corner, and Sophie Reeves whispered a prayer that her mama would still be alive when he got there. Marcus's feet pounded the sidewalk, his breath controlled despite the sprint. 12 years out of active duty, but muscle memory never forgot. He cut through the alley behind Miller's Hardware, taking the fastest route to Maple Street. The afternoon heat pressed down on him like a weight, sweat soaked through his gi. But he barely noticed. His mind was locked into mission mode. Assess, plan, execute, just like Fallujah, just like every door they'd ever kicked down. Searching for insurgents. Except this wasn't Iraq. This was Whitmore, Georgia. And somewhere ahead, a woman was fighting for her life. He emerged from the alley onto Maple Street. The neighborhood looked tired. Chain-link fences sagging, paint peeling off wooden siding, yards more dirt than grass. The kind of place where people worked 2 jobs and still couldn't get ahead. There. Number 42. The Blue House. Marcus slowed to a walk, his tactical awareness sharpening. The house was a small single story with a covered porch. 2 windows facing the street, both with curtains drawn. A rusted Toyota Camry sat in the driveway. Probably Sophie's mother's car parked on the street. A black Dodge Ram with tinted windows and a Rebel bumper sticker. Derek's truck had to be. Marcus approached from the side, staying low, using the overgrown hedges for cover. His hand instinctively went to his waistband, feeling the reassuring weight of the Beretta, safety still on. He wanted to avoid using it if possible. As he got closer, he could hear voices, loud, aggressive. Told you what would happen if you called the cops, didn't I? A man's voice, thick with rage, and something else. Alcohol, maybe, or meth. Didn't I? Then a woman's voice, strained but defiant. Get out of my house, Derek. A sharp crack, the sound of a hand meeting flesh. You don't tell me what to do. You think you can just walk away? After everything I did for you? Marcus reached the porch step through a gap in the curtains. He could see movement, shadows shifting. He had 2 options. Go in quiet and try to de-escalate, or go in hard and fast to create chaos and confusion. The problem was, he didn't know what he was walking into. 3 men, Sophie had said. Were they armed? Where exactly was the mother? Going in blind could get someone killed. He crept up the porch steps, testing each board for creaks. The front door was slightly ajar. Derek probably hadn't bothered closing it after Sophie ran out. Marcus positioned himself beside the door. Listen, Derek, man, maybe we should just go. A second male voice, younger, nervous. People are gonna hear, shut up, Cody. Nobody tells me when to leave. Especially not this bitch. I'm not your property. The woman's voice again, strong despite the fear underneath. We're done, Derek. I told you 3 months ago. It's over. It's over when I say it's over. Another sound, furniture scraping. Something breaking. Mama. A child's voice. Another kid. Younger than Sophie. Stop hurting my mama. Get that little brat out of here. Derek snarled. That was enough. Marcus took one breath, centered himself and pushed the door open. The scene hit him all at once. Small living room, furniture knocked over, lamp shattered on the floor. 3 men, just as Sophie described, a woman mid-30s, blonde with a split lip, and the beginnings of a black eye, backed against the wall, one arm protectively around a little boy, who couldn't be more than 5. Derek stood in the center of the room, early 40s, over 6 feet, broad-shouldered with the kind of muscle that came from hard labor and prison yard workouts. Shaved head, goatee, wearing a stained white tank top and jeans. His right hand was clenched in a fist, and his knuckles were bleeding, probably from punching something, or someone. 2 other men flanked him, one tall and skinny with tattooed arms. Cody, probably, and another shorter but built like a fire plug, with a face that looked like it had been broken and reset too many times. All 3 turned when Marcus entered. Who the hell are you? Derek demanded. Marcus stood in the doorway, his posture relaxed but ready. He kept his voice calm, non-threatening. Just a neighbor. Heard some noise. Wanted to make sure everything's all right. Derek's eyes narrowed. Everything's fine. This is family business. Get lost. Marcus's gaze flicked to the woman. Their eyes met for just a second. Hers desperate, pleading. Her son clutched her leg, crying quietly. Doesn't look fine, Marcus said evenly. Looks like the lady wants you to leave. Look, old man. Derek took a step forward, his jaw clenched. I don't know who you think you are, but you need to walk out that door right now. Or what? The room went silent. Derek's face darkened. You got a death wish? Marcus didn't move. Ma'am, he said, still looking at Derek. Do you want these men in your house? No, she said immediately, her voice shaking but clear. I want them to leave. Now. You heard the lady. Derek laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. You think you're some kind of hero? Coming in here to save the damsel in distress? He spread his arms wide. Look around, hero. It's 3 against 1. And I promise you we've done this before. I believe you, Marcus said quietly. I can see that. But here's the thing. I've done this before too. And I'm very good at it. Cody shifted nervously. Derek, man. Maybe we should shut up. Derek snapped. Then back to Marcus. Last chance. Walk away. Marcus shook his head slowly. Can't do that. Then you're gonna bleed. Derek lunged. But Marcus was already moving. Years of training took over. Muscle memory. Reflexes honed by 1,000 hours of combat drills. And real-world fights. Derek was big and strong. But he telegraphed his punch like an amateur. Marcus sidestepped, caught Derek's extended arm, and used the man's own momentum to send him stumbling past. The shorter man, Fireplug, charged. Marcus met him with a quick jab to the solar plexus, followed by a knee to the face. When the man doubled over, Fireplug went down hard. Gasping, Cody backed up, hands raised. Whoa, whoa, I don't want. Derek had recovered, rage contorting his features. He grabbed a table lamp and swung it like a club. Marcus ducked, felt the whoosh of air as it missed his head by inches. Glass shattered against the wall. You're dead, Derek roared, throwing wild punches. Marcus blocked, deflected, stayed just out of reach. He could end this. He knew a dozen ways to put Derek down permanently. But that wasn't the mission. The mission was to neutralize the threat without killing anyone, if possible. Derek was strong but sloppy, running on rage and adrenaline. Marcus waited for an opening, then struck a precise palm strike to Derek's chest that sent the bigger man stumbling backward. Before Derek could recover, Marcus swept his legs out from under him. Derek crashed to the floor, The wind knocked out of him. Marcus was on him in a second. Knee pressed into Derek's spine. One arm twisted behind his back in a lock that could break bone if Derek struggled. Don't move, Marcus said quietly. I can dislocate your shoulder before you take your next breath. Derek groaned, his face pressed against the carpet. Cody had his hands up, backing toward the door. I'm out. I'm out, man. I didn't sign up for this. Smart, Marcus said. Take your friend with you. He nodded toward Fireplug, who was still on the floor, blood streaming from his nose. Cody helped Fireplug to his feet, and they stumbled out the front door. Marcus kept Derek pinned. You done? Get off me. That's not answering my question. Are you done? Derek's breathing was ragged. Yeah, I'm done. Good. 'Cause the police are on their way. And if you ever, and I mean ever, come near this woman or her children again, they won't find enough of you to identify. Marcus leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Do you understand me? Something in Marcus's tone, something cold and absolutely certain, made Derek go still. I understand, he muttered. Marcus released him and stood, maintaining distance. Derek slowly got to his feet, cradling his arm. His eyes burned with humiliation and rage. But he didn't make a move. Get out, Marcus said simply. Derek backed toward the door, never taking his eyes off Marcus. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Derek stumbled out onto the porch. Marcus watched through the doorway as he climbed into his truck, slammed the door, and peeled out with a squeal of tires. Only then did Marcus allow himself to breathe. He turned to the woman and her son. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face, clutching the boy close. Are you okay? Marcus asked gently. Did he hurt you badly? She shook her head, unable to speak for a moment. Then my daughter, Sophie. I told her to run. She's safe. She's at my dojo with my students. That's how I knew to come. The woman's knees buckled with relief. Marcus caught her before she fell, helping her to the couch. What's your name? He asked. Jennifer. She managed. Jennifer Reeves. This is my son, Tyler. The little boy looked up at Marcus with wide, frightened eyes. Hi, Tyler, Marcus said softly. You were very brave protecting your mama. In the distance, sirens wailed. Getting closer, Jennifer looked at Marcus, her eyes filled with something between gratitude and disbelief. Who are you? Marcus Stone. I run the dojo on Main Street. You just, she couldn't find the words. He could have killed you. Marcus shook his head. No, he couldn't have. He paused. But he might kill you next time. How long has this been going on? Jennifer's face crumbled. 3 years. On and on. I broke up with him 3 months ago, but he won't accept it. He keeps coming back, threatening me, saying I can't leave him. You have a restraining order? It didn't stop him. Marcus's jaw tightened. He knew the statistic, knew how often pieces of paper failed to protect women from violent men. The sirens were right outside now. 2 sheriff's cruisers, pulled up, lights flashing. It's going to be okay, Marcus said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. You're going to file a report, everything that happened. And I'll make sure Sophie gets home safely to you. Jennifer grabbed his hand. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you hadn't come. She didn't finish. But she didn't need to. Sheriff Tom Breslin came through the door, hand on his weapon. 2 deputies behind him. He was in his late 50s, with gray hair and a weathered face that had seen too much for a small town. Marcus? Breslin said, surprised. What are you doing here? Right place, right time, Tom. Breslin took in the scene: overturned furniture, broken lamp, Jennifer's injuries, the terrified child. Someone want to tell me what happened? Marcus exchanged a glance with Jennifer. This was just the beginning. Reports, statements, maybe arrests if they were lucky. But Derek's final words echoed in his mind. This isn't over. And Marcus knew, with the certainty of a man who'd seen too much violence, that Derek wasn't the type to let this go. The real danger was just beginning. The sheriff's station smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. Marcus sat in a plastic chair outside Sheriff Breslin's office, watching Jennifer give her statement to Deputy Martinez through the glass partition. Tyler was asleep on her lap, exhausted from crying. Sophie sat beside her mother, holding her hand tight. It had been 2 hours since the incident. Marcus had given his own statement, factual, concise, leaving nothing out. Self-defense on behalf of another. 3 witnesses, Jennifer, Tyler, and the neighbors who'd heard the commotion. Derek Hutchins had fled the scene. Breslin had put out a bolo bee, on the lookout, but in a county this size with back roads and woods, a man could disappear easily enough if he wanted to. The door to Breslin's office opened. The sheriff motioned Marcus inside. "Close the door," Breslin said, settling into his desk chair with a heavy sigh. Marcus did, then sat across from him. Breslin was quiet for a moment, studying Marcus with tired eyes. They'd known each other for 8 years since Marcus had returned to Whitmore after his discharge. Breslin had been the one to welcome him home, to check on him during those first rough months when the nightmares were bad. And Marcus couldn't sleep without seeing Fallujah behind his eyelids. "You could have gotten yourself killed today," Breslin said finally. "I know. Derek Hutchins isn't some drunk stumbling out of a bar. He's got a record, aggravated assault, battery, did 18 months in Lee Arendale. Got out 2 years ago." Breslin leaned forward. "He's also connected. His cousin runs with the Ghost Riders." Marcus's jaw tightened. The Ghost Riders, a motorcycle club that operated out of Valdosta, about 40 miles south. They ran guns, meth and protection rackets across 3 counties. Not the kind of people you wanted noticing you. "How connected?" Marcus asked. "Connected enough that when Derek got arrested for assault 3 years ago, the charges mysteriously got dropped. Witness recanted. Evidence disappeared." Breslin shook his head. "I couldn't prove it, but I know what happened. The Riders leaned on people. And Jennifer, how does she fit into this? She worked at the Waffle House out on Route 19. That's where she met Derek. He seemed normal at first, charming even. But once he got his hooks in, Breslin trailed off. She tried to leave him twice before. Both times he found her, scared her into coming back. The restraining order she filed 3 months ago. It's just paper, Marcus. Derek doesn't care about paper. Marcus processed this. So what happens now? We'll try to pick him up. Bring him in on assault, breaking and entering, violating the restraining order. But even if we get him, he'll make bail. And then, Breslin didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. You can't protect her, Marcus said quietly. Not 24/7. We're a 5-man department, covering 180 square miles. I can have a deputy drive by her house a few times a day. But that's it. Breslin met Marcus's eyes. You did a brave thing today, but this isn't your fight. A little girl ran into my dojo crying for help. That made it my fight. Marcus, I'm not looking to be a hero taunt, but I'm not going to let that woman and those kids get hurt because some piece of garbage thinks he owns them. Breslin studied him for a long moment. You know what happens if you keep getting involved? Derek will come after you too. And the Riders. If they decide you're a problem, I can handle myself. Against one man? Sure. Against a dozen bikers with no rules and nothing to lose. Breslin shook his head. You're not in the Marines anymore, Marcus. This isn't a war zone. Marcus looked out the window at Whitmore's quiet main street. Children playing, people going about their lives. Safe. Normal. Feels like one sometimes, he said softly. An hour later, Marcus walked Jennifer, Sophie, and Tyler back to his dojo. Jennifer had refused to go home. Couldn't face that house yet. Couldn't stand to be in the place where Derek had. She'd broken down halfway through her statement, and Sophie had wrapped her small arms around her mama's neck, whispering, It's okay, Mama. We're safe now. The black belt saved us. The black belt. Marcus almost smiled at that. If only it were that simple. At the dojo, Sarah had kept the evening class going. 8 more students had shown up, and word had already spread through town. Small town gossip traveled faster than wildfire. Sensei Marcus, Tommy called out when they walked in. Is she okay? Is Sophie's mom okay? She will be, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. He set Jennifer and the kids up in his small office, with water and some crackers from the vending machine. Sophie clung to her mother, while Tyler had gone silent, that terrible quiet of a traumatized child. Marcus pulled Sarah aside. I need you to finish class, he said quietly. And tomorrow can you handle things for a few days? I might need to deal with some things. Sarah's brow furrowed. Marcus, what's going on? Everyone's talking. They're saying you fought 3 men, that you saved this woman's life. Something like that. Are you in trouble? He thought about Derek's final words. This isn't over. Thought about the ghostwriters and what Breslin had said. Maybe, he admitted, but I don't have a choice. Sarah glanced at the office where Jennifer sat with her children. She doesn't have anyone else, does she? No. Then I guess you don't have a choice. Sarah squeezed his arm. Be careful, Marcus. Please. After class ended and the students filtered out, many casting curious glances at the family in the office, Marcus returned to Jennifer. Do you have somewhere to stay? He asked. Family? Friends? Jennifer shook her head. My parents died 5 years ago. Car accident. I don't have any siblings. And my friends? She trailed off. And Marcus understood. Derek had probably isolated her, driven away anyone who might have helped. The women's shelter in Valdosta. No. Jennifer's voice was firm despite her exhaustion. That's the first place he'd look. Derek knows about those places. He's talked about what he'd do if I ever tried to hide there. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, thinking. Okay. There's a motel just outside town. The Pine Ridge. It's quiet off the main road. I can get you a room for a few nights while we figure something out. I can't afford. I'll cover it. Don't worry about that. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears again. Why are you doing this? You don't even know us. Marcus crouched down so he was at eye level with her. Because someone needs to. And because, he paused, the memories flickering. Because I've seen what happens when good people don't stand up. I've seen entire villages destroyed. Because everyone was too afraid to fight back. I won't let that happen here. Sophie looked up at him, with those wide, trusting eyes. Are you going to protect us? Marcus felt the weight of that question. A promise to a child. The most sacred kind. Yes, he said. I am. He drove them to the Pine Ridge Motel in his old Ford pickup. It was nearly 9 p.m., and the Georgia night had settled in, thick and humid, with crickets singing their endless chorus. The motel manager, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, took one look at Jennifer's bruised face and asked no question. Just handed over a key to room 12 in the back. Away from the road, Marcus helped carry in the few things they'd grabbed from the house. Some clothes Tyler stuffed bare. Sophie's backpack. At the door to the room, Jennifer turned to him. What happens tomorrow? She asked quietly. So the kids wouldn't hear. Tomorrow we make sure you're safe. We talked to a lawyer about getting a permanent restraining order. Maybe look into relocating you if it comes to that. And Derek, Marcus's expression hardened. Derek made his choice today. He put his hands on you in front of your children. That was the last time. You sound very sure. I am. Jennifer searched his face. You've done this before, haven't you? Protected people. In a different life. Were you good at it? Marcus thought about the villages they'd secured, the children they'd guarded, the families they'd evacuated, and the ones they'd failed to save. Sometimes, he said honestly. Jennifer reached out and took his hand. Thank you, Marcus Stone. For everything. He nodded. Suddenly, uncomfortable with the gratitude. He'd only done what anyone should do. What everyone should do. But he knew better. Knew that most people would have walked away. Would have said it wasn't their problem. Would have let a little girl's desperate plea go unanswered. He drove back into town. The roads empty and dark. His phone buzzed. A text from Breslin. Found Derek's truck abandoned near the county line. He's gone to ground. Watch your back. Marcus stared at the eggs, then deleted it. He pulled into the parking lot behind his dojo and sat in the truck for a moment. Engine idling. Through the rearview mirror, he could see Whitmore's lights, the street lamps, the occasional car, The neon sign of the diner still glowing. His town. His home. And somewhere out there, Derek Hutchins was planning his next move. Marcus had been in enough firefights to know what came next. The calm before the storm. The waiting. The knowing that violence was coming. But not when or where. He thought about Sophie's face. When she'd burst into the dojo. They're beating Mama. He thought about Tyler's silent tears. He thought about Jennifer's question. Why are you doing this? Because some fights you couldn't walk away from. Not if you wanted to look at yourself in the mirror. Marcus killed the engine and got out of the truck. Tomorrow he'd start making calls. His old Marine buddies. The ones who'd settled in Georgia. The ones who knew how to handle situations like this. He'd also reach out to a lawyer he knew. Someone who specialized in domestic violence cases. But tonight he needed to prepare for what was coming. Because Derek Hutchins wasn't done. Men like him never were. And when Derek came, and he would come, Marcus intended to be ready. He unlocked the dojo and stepped inside, flipping on the lights. The space looked exactly as he'd left it hours ago. Before Sophie. Before the blue house. Before everything changed. Marcus walked to his office and opened the lockbox again. The Beretta sat inside, cleaned and ready. He hoped he wouldn't need it. But hope wasn't a strategy. Across town in a trailer park, near the county line, Derek Hutchins sat in his cousin's living room, pressing a bag of frozen peas against his swollen shoulder. His cousin Ray Hutchins, sergeant at arms for the Ghost Riders, watched him with cold eyes. So let me get this straight, Ray said, his voice quiet and dangerous. Some dojo owner made you look like a bitch in front of that woman. Derek's face burned with humiliation. He got lucky. Caught me off guard. Lucky. Ray snorted. You had Cody and Meat with you. And one middle-aged karate teacher took all three of you down. He's not just some teacher. He moved like... Derek struggled for the words. Like he'd done it before. Like a soldier or something. Ray was quiet for a moment. Then pulled out his phone. A few taps. And he was reading something on the screen. Marcus Stone. Ray said. 42. Runs Stone Mountain Dojo on Main Street. Former Marine. Served 2 tours in Iraq. 1 in Afghanistan. Discharged with honors. He looked up. Purple Heart. Bronze Star. This guy's a legitimate war hero, Derek. What the hell were you thinking going after his town on his watch? I wasn't going after the town. I was going after my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend. Ray corrected. Who has a restraining order against you? Who you assaulted in front of her kids. And now this Marcus guy is involved. He shook his head. You've created a problem, little cousin. So what do I do? Ray leaned back in his chair, thinking. The Riders don't back down. You know that. If we let some civilian embarrass one of ours, we look weak. And if we look weak, we got problems from here to Jacksonville. So we handle it. But smart. Cops are looking for you right now. You lay low for a few days. Let things cool down. Then, Ray smiled. And it wasn't a pleasant expression. Then we remind Whitmore who runs things in this county. Starting with Mr. Marcus Stone. Derek felt a surge of vindictive satisfaction. What about Jennifer? What about her? She's mine, Ray. I'm not letting her go. Ray studied his cousin for a long moment. You really don't get it, do you? She was never yours. You just convinced yourself she was. And now you've dragged the Riders into your mess. So you're not going to help me? Oh, I'm going to help you. It's your family. And because that Marine made you look weak. Which makes us look weak. Ray stood up. But after this is done, you leave that woman alone. You hear me? Find someone else. There's plenty of women out there who like bad boys. Jennifer Reeves isn't worth starting a war over. And Marcus Stone. Ray's smile widened. Ahem. He's absolutely worth it. Man thinks he can play hero in our territory. We're going to teach him what happens to heroes around here. He pulled out his phone and started making calls. In 2 days, the Ghost Riders would roll into Whitmore, and Marcus Stone was going to learn that some problems couldn't be solved with a black belt and good intention. The next morning dawned gray and overcast, with the promise of rain hanging heavy in the Georgia air. Marcus was at the dojo by 5 a.m., going through his forms in the empty space. Kata had always been his meditation. The precise movements, the controlled breathing, the focus required to execute each technique perfectly. It quieted the noise in his head. He was halfway through his third kata when his phone buzzed. A text from a number he hadn't seen in 4 years. Heard you got yourself into something? Still in Whitmore? Reeves? Marcus stopped mid-movement. Staff Sergeant Jake Reeves. They'd served together in Fallujah, breaching doors, clearing buildings, watching each other's backs through the worst of it. Jake had settled in Macon after discharge, about 90 miles north. Marcus typed back, "Yeah, might need some backup soon." The response came within seconds. "Say when." Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. He wasn't alone in this. Over the next hour, he made 3 more calls. 2 went to voicemail. Guys he'd served with who'd scattered across the country. But the third connected. Marcus Stone. "As I live and breathe." The voice was rough, weathered, but warm. "Thought you'd forgotten about us. Carlos. How's Atlanta treating you?" Carlos Mendoza laughed. "Better than Kandahar. That's for damn sure." "What's going on, brother? You don't call unless something's wrong." Marcus filled him in. The short version. "Jennifer. Derek. The ghostwriters." Carlos was quiet for a moment. 1%er MC? That's serious, Marcus. Those boys don't play. I know. And you're still going to stand your ground. Don't have much choice. There's always a choice. A pause. But I know you. Once you dig in, that's it. Carlos sighed. "I can be there by tonight. And I know 2 other guys in the area who might help. Ramirez and Thompson. Civilians now. But they remember what it means to have a brother's back. I don't want to pull you away from." "Marcus, shut up. You do the same for me. We're coming." After hanging up, Marcus stood in the center of his dojo, looking around at the space he'd built. 8 years of teaching kids discipline, respect, confidence. 8 years of peace. And now war was coming to his doorstep. By 9 a.m., the dojo was buzzing with activity. Not from students, but from concerned parents and town residents who'd heard about yesterday's incident. Marcus had just finished explaining to Mrs. Patterson, Tommy's mother, that yes, everyone was fine, when Sheriff Breslin walked in. His expression said it all. "We need to talk," Breslin said, jerking his head toward Marcus's office. "Private." Inside, with the door closed, Breslin pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a photo. 5 motorcycles parked outside the Sunrise Diner. Big bikes, Harleys, custom jobs, and 5 men in leather vests, with a distinctive patch. A skeletal rider on a motorcycle. Flames trailing behind. The Ghost Riders. They rolled into town an hour ago, Breslin said. Sat at the diner for breakfast. Made themselves real visible. Then they cruised down Main Street. Slow, loud, making sure everyone saw them. Intimidation tactic, Marcus said. They're marking territory. Exactly. And they're asking about you. Breslin's jaw was tight. Martha, at the diner, said the leader. Big guy. Salt and pepper beard. Vest says Sergeant at Arms. Asked where the karate hero hangs out. She didn't tell them. But Marcus, they already know. Everyone in town knows where your dojo is. Let them come. That's not bravado I'm hearing. Is it? Because if you're planning something, I'm planning to protect myself and the people I care about. That's it. Breslin leaned against the desk. I can't have a war in my town, Mark. If the riders start something, if there's violence, people are going to get hurt. Innocent people. Then stop them. On what grounds? They haven't broken any laws. Technically, they're just citizens exercising their right to ride motorcycles and eat breakfast. Breslin's frustration was evident. My hands are tied. Unless they actually do something. They will. I know. That's what scares me. Breslin met Marcus's eyes. I've got 2 deputies watching the motel, where Jennifer's staying. But I can't protect everyone. Everywhere, all the time. I'm not asking you to. What are you asking? Marcus considered his words carefully. Give me 24 hours. If nothing happens by then, I'll try to de-escalate. Talk to their leadership. Work something out. And if something does happen, then I handle it. Breslin studied him for a long moment. You've got that look. Same one you had when you came back from overseas. Like you're already at war in your head. Some wars never end. Tom. They just change location. After Breslin left, Marcus locked the front door of the dojo and flipped the sign to closed. He needed time to think, to prepare. He was cleaning his Beretta, field stripping it, checking every component, when someone knocked on the back door. Marcus approached cautiously, hand near his weapon. Through the small window he saw a woman, mid-40s, wearing jeans and a Whitmore Community Church t-shirt. He opened the door. Mr. Stone, I'm Carol Winters. I'm a social worker with the county. She had a kind face, but her eyes were troubled. Sheriff Breslin asked me to check on Jennifer Reeves and her children. I went to the motel, but she's not there. Marcus's blood went cold. What? The room's empty. Mrs. Chen said. They left early this morning. A man picked them up in a black truck. Derek. Did Mrs. Chen see him? Can she identify him? Carol nodded. She's already given a statement to the sheriff. But Mr. Stone, if this man took Jennifer against her will, Marcus was already moving, grabbing his keys, his phone. Thank you for letting me know. Wait, what are you going to do? Find them. He was out the door before she could respond, his mind racing. Derek had taken them. Somehow he'd found out where they were staying. Maybe he'd been watching the motel. Maybe someone in town had told him. Whitmore was small, and Derek had lived here all his life. He'd have connections, people loyal to him. Marcus called Breslin as he climbed into his truck. I heard, Breslin said, before Marcus could speak. Already got units looking. But Marcus, if Derek's got them, he could be anywhere. Every trailer, every hunting cabin, every abandoned barn in 3 counties. He'll take them somewhere he feels safe, somewhere he has control. His cousin's place. Ray Hutchins. That's where Derek's been hiding out. Breslin paused. But Marcus, I can't just storm in there without cause. Ray's smart. If we show up without a warrant, without probable cause, anything we find gets thrown out. And Derek walks. So get a warrant. I'm trying, Duddy, but it takes time. And judges around here, some of them have reasons to be friendly with the riders. Money changes hands. If you know what I mean. Marcus gripped the steering wheel so hard. His knuckles went white. How long? Maybe by tonight. Maybe tomorrow. She doesn't have that long, Tom. I know. God help me, I know. But my hands are tied. A pause. Unless you have some information that could help speed things along. Marcus understood what Breslin wasn't saying. If Marcus went to Ray's place on his own, found evidence, saw something that could give Breslin the probable cause he needed, it was also illegal and dangerous. Text me the address. Marcus said. Marcus. The address, Tom. A long silence. Then be careful. Ray Hutchins isn't Derek. He's smarter, more dangerous. And that property is a fortress. Guard dogs. Cameras. Probably armed men. You go in there alone. You might not come out. I won't be alone. Marcus hung up and made another call. Carlos answered on the first ring. I'm 15 minutes out. What's the situation? It's escalated. I need you now on my way. Ray Hutchins's property was exactly what Breslin had described. A compound. 20 acres of scrubby Georgia woodland, with a long dirt driveway, leading to a cluster of buildings. A main house. 2 trailers. A garage that looked more like a warehouse. And several outbuildings, Marcus observed from the tree line. Binoculars in hand. Carlos crouched beside him, along with Jake Reeves, who'd arrived an hour ago. Both men were armed. Carlos with a Glock 19. Jake with a civilian AR-15. I count 4 bikes. Jake murmured. 5, maybe 6 individuals visit. 2 on the porch. Smoking. One working on a bike in the garage. Can't see inside the buildings. Dogs? Marcus asked. 2. Rottweilers. Chained near the main house. Security cameras? At least 3 I can see. Covering the driveway and main approaches. Marcus scanned the property methodically. There. Through a window in the second trailer. Movement. And was that? Carlos zoom on the trailer. Right window. Carlos had brought a spotting scope. He adjusted it. Focused. Got 2 individuals. One male pacing. One female seated. Can't confirm ID from this range. But it's them. Marcus said with certainty. Has to be. So what's the play? Jake asked. This isn't Fallujah, brother. We can't just breach and clear. Not without the law coming down on all of us. Marcus knew he was right. Everything about this violated a dozen laws. Trespassing. Armed intimidation. Vigilantism. But those were Sophie's words echoing in his head. They're beating Mama. And he'd made a promise. We do this smart. Marcus said. Carlos, you and Jake stay here. Eyes on. If things go sideways, you call Breslin. Tell him there's violence in progress. That gives him cause to come in. And you? Carlos asked. Though his tone said he already knew. I'm going to talk to Ray. Face to face. See if we can resolve this without bloodshed. That's insane. Probably. Marcus checked his Beretta. Chambered around. Safetied it. But Derek took those kids. Carlos. A 5-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. And he took their mother. How long do you think before he does something we can't undo? Jake and Carlos exchanged glances. They'd both seen what happened when violence escalated. When children were involved. Afghanistan had taught them that some things you couldn't unsee. See. 20 minutes. Carlos said finally. You've got 20 minutes to talk. If you're not back out by then, we're coming in. And we're calling in everyone. Fair enough. Marcus stood. Checked his weapon one more time. And started down the hill toward the compound. He didn't bother with stealth. He walked straight up the driveway. Hands visible. Moving with purpose. But not aggression. The 2 men on the porch saw him immediately. One dropped his cigarette. Reached for his waistband. The other called out. Hold it right there. Marcus stopped about 30 feet away. I'm here to see Ray Hutchins. Tell him Marcus Stone wants to talk. The men looked at each other. One pulled out a phone. Made a quick call. After a moment he nodded to his companion. And jerked his head toward the main house. Inside. And keep your hands where we can see them. Marcus complied. Walking slowly up the porch steps. The door opened before he reached it. Ray Hutchins stood in the doorway. He was exactly as Marcus had imagined. 6'2", built like a linebacker gone to seed, with a salt and pepper beard, and eyes that had seen too much and cared too little. His leather vest displayed the Ghost Rider's patch, along with various pins and insignia that Marcus recognized from his briefing on OMGs, outlaw motorcycle gangs. Marcus Stone, Ray said, his voice surprisingly soft. The hero of Whitmore. You've got some balls walking onto my property. I'm here about Jennifer Reeves. And her children. I want them released. Now. Ray smiled. See, that's the problem with heroes. They think they can just demand things. And people will jump. But the world doesn't work that way, Mr. Stone. Where are they? Safe. For now. Ray leaned against the doorframe. But their safety depends on you making some smart choices. What do you want? I want you to understand something. This county? It belongs to the Ghost Riders. We've run things here for 20 years. We decide who gets protection. And who doesn't. We decide when the law looks the other way. We decide everything. Ray's eyes hardened. And then you come along. Some washed up jarhead playing superhero. You embarrassed my cousin. You made us look weak. That's a problem. Your cousin beat a woman in front of her children. That's the problem. My cousin's business is my business. Jennifer Reeves should have known better than to cross him. Now she's learning the consequences. And so are you. Marcus felt his control fraying. If you hurt them, you'll what, call the cops? Sheriff Breslin can't touch us. Fight me. You're outnumbered and outgunned.
Ray pushed off the doorframe. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave town. Tonight. Pack your shit. Close your dojo and disappear. Do that. And Jennifer and her kids go free. Hell, I'll even give Derek a talking to. Tell him to leave her alone. Everybody wins. Except that's a lie. You'll kill them the moment I'm gone. Ray shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But here's what's certain. If you don't leave, if you keep pushing this, I'll make sure you watch them die. Starting with the little girl. Sophie, isn't it? Pretty name. Be a shame if Marcus moved. Years of combat training. Muscle memory. Pure instinct. He closed the distance in 2 steps. Grabbed Ray by the vest. And slammed him against the doorframe. Don't. Marcus growled. His voice barely human. Don't you dare threaten those children. Ray didn't flinch. He just smiled. There he is. The killer underneath the sensei. I was wondering when I'd meet him. Footsteps thundered. The 2 men from the porch. Plus 3 more from inside the house. Marcus released Ray and stepped back. Hands raised. 5 guns pointed at his head. I could have you shot right now, Ray said calmly, straightening his vest. Self-defense. You came onto my property. Attacked me. No jury would convict. Do it, Marcus said quietly. But my friends are watching. And the second I drop, they call the sheriff. You'll have 10 deputies on your property in 5 minutes. They'll search everywhere. And when they find Jennifer and those kids, Ray's smile faded. You're bluffing. Am I? A long tense silence. Ray studied Marcus's face, looking for tells, for signs of deception. Finally he waved his hand. Lower your weapons. The men hesitated, then complied. You're either very brave or very stupid. Ray said, I haven't decided which yet. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Bring them out. A moment later, the door to the second trailer opened. Derek emerged first, looking sullen and angry. Then Jennifer, with Sophie and Tyler clinging to her sides. Jennifer's eyes found Marcus's, and the relief and fear in them nearly broke him. See? Ray said, they're fine. For now. But here's your last chance, Stone. Walk away. Leave Whitmore, or I promise you, everything you care about in this town will burn. Your dojo, your students, your friends, and Jennifer and her kids. They'll just disappear. Happens all the time. Single mothers. No family. No one to ask questions. Marcus looked at Jennifer, at the children. Sophie recognized him, and started to move toward him. But Jennifer held her back. Every instinct screamed at him to fight. To rush the trailer. Grab the kids. Shoot anyone who got in his way. But there were 5 armed men. Jennifer and the kids would be caught in the crossfire. He couldn't win this fight. Not here. Not now. Okay. Marcus said finally. Okay. I'll leave. Ray's eyebrows rose. Just like that? Just like that. But you let them go first. Right now. I watch them drive away safe. Then I leave town. Ray considered this. Deal. But Stone.
If you ever come back, if I even hear your name again, the deal's off. And people will die. Are we clear? Crystal. Ray nodded to Derek. Let them go. Derek's face twisted with rage. Ray, you can't just... I said let them go. Ray's voice cracked like a whip. Or do you want to explain to the club why we're all facing kidnapping charges? Derek glared at Marcus with pure hatred. But he stepped aside. Jennifer rushed forward with Sophie and Tyler. Marcus met them halfway, putting himself between them and the bikers. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Did they hurt you? Jennifer shook her head, tears streaming. No, Derek he wanted to talk, to explain, but Ray said. She couldn't finish. It's okay, you're safe now. Get in my truck. Carlos and Jake are waiting at the tree line. They'll take you back to town, to the sheriff's station. You'll be safe there. What about you? Sophie asked, looking up at him with those trusting eyes. Marcus forced a smile. I'll be right behind you, I promise. He walked them to his truck, got them inside. Through the rearview mirror, he could see Ray and his men watching from the porch. As Jennifer started the engine,
Marcus leaned in through the window. Drive straight to the sheriff's station. Don't stop for anything. Understand? Marcus, thank you for everything. I don't know how to. Just keep those kids safe. That's all the thanks I need. Jennifer drove away, dust kicking up behind the truck. Marcus watched until they disappeared around the bend. Then he turned back to face Ray and the Ghost Riders. Ray was smiling. Smart choice, Stone. Real smart. Now get the hell off my property. Marcus walked back toward the compound, past the bikers, past Derek's murderous glare. But as he reached the tree line, where Carlos and Jake waited, he allowed himself a small smile. Because Ray had made a mistake. He'd let Jennifer and the kids go. He'd shown his hand, revealed his weakness. Ray thought Marcus would keep his word, would leave town like he'd promised. But Marcus had learned something important in the Marines. Sometimes you had to retreat to regroup. Sometimes you had to make the enemy think they'd won. And then you struck when they least expected it. Did you get what you needed? Carlos asked as Marcus joined them in the trees. Marcus nodded. I saw the layout, the security, the blind spot, and now I know exactly where they're keeping their weapons. He'd noticed the warehouse while being escorted, seen through an open door, racks of firearms, crates of ammunition. So what now? Jake asked. Now, Marcus checked his watch. Now we make some calls, because Ray Hutchins just made this federal. How? He threatened to burn down a business and murder children. If I didn't leave town, that's domestic terrorism under the Patriot Act. And I know someone at the FBI field office in Atlanta who owes me a favor. Carlos grinned. Brother, you sneaky son of a bitch. Learned from the best. Marcus pulled out his phone. Ray wants a war? He's about to get one, but not the kind he's expecting. In the distance, the sound of motorcycles roaring to life echoed through the Georgia woods. The Ghost Riders thought they'd won. They had no idea what was coming.
The FBI field office in Atlanta was a sterile building of glass and concrete, worlds away from the dusty roads of Whitmore. Marcus sat across from Special Agent Sarah Chen in a conference room, watching her review the evidence on her laptop. It had been 16 hours since the confrontation at Ray's compound. Domestic terrorism is a serious charge, Mr. Stone, Agent Chen said, looking up from the screen. But I have to be honest with you. What you've given me is mostly circumstantial. Threats made on private property without witnesses. Beyond your word. The weapons you saw could be legally owned. The Ghost Riders have expensive lawyers who've kept them out of federal prosecution for years. Marcus felt frustration building. So you're saying there's nothing you can do? I'm saying it's complicated. Chen leaned back in her chair. However, if we could establish a pattern of racketeering, witness intimidation, or interstate criminal activity, that changes things. RICO charges would let us go after the entire organization. How long would that take? Months, maybe a year. Jennifer Reeves doesn't have a year. Those kids don't have a year. Chen's expression softened. I understand. And for what it's worth, I believe you. Everything you've told me fits the Ghost Rider's MO, but belief isn't evidence. I need something concrete, something that would hold up in federal court. Marcus stood, pacing to the window. Below, Atlanta stretched out, millions of people going about their lives. Safe, normal. While 90 miles south, a woman and 2 children were targets because Marcus had dared to stand up. What if I could get you something? Marcus asked. Evidence of illegal weapons, drug trafficking, anything that would stick. Chen studied him carefully. Mr. Stone, I can't condone civilian involvement in an active investigation. If you obtained evidence illegally, I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about giving you probable cause. That sounds like semantics. It's reality. Marcus turned to face her. Ray Hutchins told me he runs this county. That the law looks the other way. If that's true, then local law enforcement is compromised. But you? The FBI? He can't touch you. You could shut him down if you had the right reason to act. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. This is my direct line. If you happen to observe any federal crimes in progress, Not participate in, just observe. You call me immediately. Is that clear? Marcus took the card. Crystal. And Mr. Stone, whatever you're planning, be careful. The Ghost Riders have killed federal witnesses before. Don't become a statistic. Marcus drove back to Whitmore as the sun set, painting the Georgia sky in shades of orange and red. His phone rang. Breslin. Where are you? The sheriff asked without preamble. 20 minutes out, what's wrong? Everything. Breslin's voice was tight. Ray Hutchins filed a complaint against you for trespassing and assault. Says you attacked him on his property, threatened his life. He's got 5 witnesses who'll testify to it. That's bullshit. And you know it. Doesn't matter what I know. I've got a warrant for your arrest. Marcus, signed by Judge Patterson. Ray's poker buddy, by the way. I can sit on it for maybe 12 hours. But then you have to bring me in. Yeah. And once you're in custody, you're vulnerable. Ghost Riders have people in the county lockup. Corrections officers on their payroll. You wouldn't last a night. Marcus's grip tightened on the wheel. Ray was moving faster than expected, using the system against him. Smart? What about Jennifer and the kids? They're at a safe house run by the women's shelter in Macon. New location, tight security. But Marcus, if you're arrested, if you're off the board, Breslin didn't finish. I know. Ray will go after them. So what are you going to do? Marcus thought about Agent Chen's card in his pocket. About Carlos and Jake waiting at the motel. About the promise he'd made to Sophie. I'm going to end this, he said. Tonight. Marcus, trust me, Tom. Just trust me one more time. He hung up before Breslin could respond. The planning session happened in Marcus's dojo after dark. Carlos, Jake, and 2 more men Marcus had served with, David Ramirez and Chris Thompson, sat around the desk in his office. Outside, the streets of Whitmore were quiet, oblivious to what was coming. This is insane, Ramirez said after Marcus finished explaining the plan. He was 45 with graying temples and the steady demeanor of someone who'd seen combat and lived to process it. You're talking about walking into a compound full of armed criminals, gathering evidence and getting out alive. The odds are terrible. I know. And if it goes wrong, we all get arrested. Or killed. Probably both. I know that too. Thompson, younger at 38, but with 3 Purple Hearts from Afghanistan, leaned forward. Why? Why risk all this for people you barely know? Marcus looked at each of them in turn. Because I made a promise to a little girl. Because if we don't stop Ray Hutchins now, he'll keep hurting people. And because, he paused, because this is what we do. What we've always done. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Jake spoke up. Marcus saved my life in Fallujah. Carried me 3 blocks under fire when I took shrapnel. I wouldn't be here without him. He looked around the room. I'm in. Carlos nodded. Same. This man's my brother. Where he goes, I go. Ramirez and Thompson exchanged glances. Finally, Ramirez sighed. My wife is going to kill me. I'll send flowers, Marcus said with a ghost of a smile. So what's the actual plan? Thompson asked. Because sneak into a compound full of bikers isn't much of a strategy. Marcus unfolded a hand-drawn map of Ray's property. Ray thinks I left town. He won't be expecting me to come back. Especially not tonight. That gives us the element of surprise. Here's how we do it. At 2 a.m., 5 men in dark clothing moved through the Georgia woods like ghosts. No flashlights. No noise. Just controlled movement and hand signals. Falling back into old patterns from a different war in a different place. Marcus led, with Carlos and Jake flanking. Ramirez and Thompson brought up the rear, covering their six. They'd approached from the north side of Ray's property, where the tree cover was thickest. Through his night vision scope, Marcus could see the compound. 2 vehicles parked outside the main house. Lights on in one of the trailers. No visible guards. But that didn't mean they weren't there. The Rottweilers were the first problem. Marcus had brought raw steaks laced with a veterinary sedative. Not enough to harm the dogs. Just enough to knock them out for a few hours. He tossed the meat over the fence. The dogs sniffed, then ate eagerly. Within minutes, they were down. Phase 1 complete, Jake whispered through the comm unit they'd rigged up.
The security cameras were next. Thompson, who'd worked private security after leaving the army, had studied the camera positions. 3 blind spots, he murmured. North corner, south side near the garage, and behind the second trailer. They moved through the blind spots, staying low, communicating only through hand signals. The warehouse was their target. Marcus had seen it earlier. The building where the riders stored their illegal arsenal. If Agent Chen needed evidence of federal crimes, a cache of unregistered automatic weapons would do nicely. The warehouse door was locked, but Carlos had brought a lockpick set. 30 seconds later they were inside. What they found exceeded expectations. Racks of assault rifles, crates of ammunition, but more than that, brick after brick of what looked like cocaine, wrapped in plastic, stacks of cash in the corner, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more, and in the back, computer equipment and documents. Jesus, Ramirez breathed. This isn't just a local operation. This is a distribution hub. Marcus pulled out his phone, started taking photos, serial numbers on the weapons, the drugs, the cash, everything Agent Chen would need. 5 minutes, he said. Document everything. Then we're out. They worked quickly, methodically. Carlos found the documents, ledgers showing drug distribution routes across 3 states, names of corrupt officials who were on the payroll, even communication logs with other criminal organizations. It was a goldmine. Too good. Part of Marcus's mind whispered. Too easy. And that's when the lights came on. Well, Ray Hutchins's voice echoed through the warehouse. Didn't I tell you to leave town, Stone? Marcus spun. Ray stood at the entrance with at least 8 men, all armed, and in the center, pushed forward by Derek, was Jennifer Reeves. Marcus's blood turned to ice. You said you'd let her go. I lied. Ray smiled. You really think I'd let my cousin's woman just walk away? She belongs to Derek. Property. I'm not anyone's property. Jennifer spat, struggling against Derek's grip. Shut up, Derek snarled, twisting her arm. Ray moved into the warehouse, his men fanning out. See, I knew you'd come back. Knew you couldn't resist playing hero. So I set a little trap. Had Derek bring Jennifer back here. Made sure the warehouse was nice and full of incriminating evidence. And now, he pulled out a gun. A .45 revolver, chromed and menacing. Now I get to solve all my problems at once. Ray, think about this, Marcus said, hands raised but calculating angles, distances, possibilities. His team was spread throughout the warehouse. If shooting started, it would be chaos. You kill us, you kill a federal witness. The FBI will come down on you like the hammer of God. Maybe, but I'll be long gone by then. Mexico. Or Canada. The club has safe houses. I'll disappear, and the rest of the riders will scatter. By the time the feds figure out what happened, we'll be ghosts. And Derek? Marcus asked. You're just going to leave your cousin holding the bag. Ray shrugged. Family's important, but not as important as survival. Derek understands that. Don't you, cousin? Derek's face fell. Ray, you said we'd be together. You said I said a lot of things. Now shut up and hold that bitch still. What's the opening Marcus needed? Derek, distracted and hurt by his cousin's betrayal, loosened his grip on Jennifer for just a second. She twisted, drove her elbow into his ribs, and dropped. Marcus drew his Beretta. Everything happened at once. Ray fired. Marcus dove right. Felt the bullet whisper past. Carlos took down the nearest biker. With a tackle, Jake and Thompson opened fire. Controlled 3-round bursts. That dropped 2 more. Ramirez threw a smoke grenade he'd brought. Military surplus. Filling the warehouse with thick gray fog. Chaos. Gunfire. Shouting. Marcus moved through the smoke. Instinct and training guiding him. He saw a muzzle flash. Returned fire. Heard someone scream. Found Jennifer crawling toward the corner. Pulled her behind a crate. Stay down, he ordered. The kids. They took the kids again. Ray's men went to the safe house. Marcus's heart stopped. What? That's why I came back. They said if I didn't come willingly, they'd kill Sophie and Tyler. I had to. A figure emerged from the smoke. Derek, gun in hand, face twisted with rage. You ruined everything. He aimed at Marcus. But Marcus was faster. A single shot. Center mass. Derek went down, clutching his chest. Marcus felt nothing. No regret. No triumph. Just cold necessity. More gunfire. Someone screaming. The smoke starting to clear. Ray was backing toward a side exit, firing wildly. Fall back. Fall back. Marcus let him go. Let them all go. Because Jennifer's words were echoing in his head. They took the kids again. Carlos. Marcus shouted. Check Derek. Make sure he's down. Jake. Ramirez. Secure the perimeter. Thompson. With me. Marcus ran out of the warehouse. Jennifer stumbling behind him. In the distance, sirens wailed. Someone had called the cops. Probably neighbors, hearing the gunfire. Where's the safe house? Marcus demanded. Markin. Maple Grove Drive. But they had a 30-minute head start. Marcus was already calling Agent Chen. She answered on the second ring. Her voice sharp and alert despite the late hour. Stone. I hear gunfire. What the hell? The Ghost Riders are moving on a women's shelter in Macon. Maple Grove Drive. 2 children inside. 8 and 5 years old. You need to get people there now. I need more than that. Ray Hutchins just tried to kill 5 people, including a federal witness. His warehouse is full of drugs, illegal weapons, and evidence of interstate trafficking. I've got photos, documents, everything. But right now you need to save those kids. A pause. Then, I'm calling Macon PD and our field agents. Stay where you are. Can't do that. Marcus hung up. Turned to Thompson. Your drive. Thompson's truck was parked a quarter-mile away in the woods. They reached it in 4 minutes. Marcus pushing Jennifer forward. Thompson clearing the path. Behind them, the compound was alive with flashing blue light. Sheriff Breslin had arrived. And from the sound of it, he'd brought every deputy in the county. They piled into the truck. Thompson drove like a man possessed, pushing 90 on the dark country roads. Marcus called Breslin. Tom, it's me. I need you to trust me one more time. Marcus, where the hell are you? I've got 3 dead bodies. A warehouse, full of evidence, and Ray Hutchins in the wind. He's going after the kids. Sophie and Tyler. The safe house in Macon. Breslin swore. I'm too far away. Marcus, if you get there first, I'll do what I have to do. Try not to kill anyone else tonight. Please. No promises. The drive to Macon took 40 minutes. It felt like 40 hours. When they arrived at the safe house, a nondescript 2-story on a quiet residential street, Marcus's worst fears were confirmed. The front door hung open. Glass from a broken window glittered on the lawn. And parked on the street. A black panel van. Stay here, Marcus told Jennifer. Like hell. Jennifer, I need you to stay alive for your children. Please. She nodded, tears streaming. Marcus and Thompson approached the house. Weapons drawn. The front room was empty. Furniture overturned. Signs of a struggle. Then Marcus heard it. A child's cry. Upstairs. He took the stairs 3 at a time. At the top, a hallway. 3 doors. The crying came from the end. Marcus kicked the door open. Sophie and Tyler sat on the floor, huddled together and terrified. 2 men stood over them. Ghost Riders, both armed. And in the corner the shelter coordinator, an older woman, beaten and bleeding. One of the bikers spun toward Marcus. Don't move or the kids. Marcus shot him. Clean headshot. The man dropped. The second biker raised his gun toward Sophie. Marcus fired again. 2 shots to the chest. The man stumbled back. Collapsed. Silence. Sophie looked up, saw Marcus, and started crying harder. You came. You came. Marcus holstered his weapon and dropped to his knees. Sophie and Tyler ran into his arms, and he held them tight, their small bodies shaking with sobs. It's okay, he murmured. You're safe now. I've got you. Thompson was checking the shelter coordinator. She's alive. Needs an ambulance. Marcus heard vehicles screeching to a stop outside. Doors slamming. Freddy. Hives up. We're coming down. Marcus shouted. Friendly. 2 children with me. Both safe. He lifted Tyler, took Sophie's hand, and walked down the stairs. Agent Chen stood in the doorway, weapon drawn. 5 other agents behind her. She took in the scene. The dead bikers. The crying children. Marcus covered in dust and gun smoke, and lowered her weapon. Jesus Christ. Stone, you just can't do things the easy way, can you? Where's Ray Hutchins? In custody. Markin PD caught him trying to flee on I-75. He's looking at federal racketeering charges, weapons trafficking, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. She holstered her gun. Thanks to the evidence you provided. And this, she gestured at the scene. Attacking a federal witness protection facility is about as federal as it gets. Marcus barely heard her. He was looking at Sophie, at Tyler, making sure they were really okay. Jennifer burst through the door, escorted by another agent. When she saw her children, she let out a sob and ran to them. They collided in the middle of the hallway, a tangle of arms, and tears and relief. Marcus stepped back, letting them have their moment. Thompson put a hand on his shoulder. You did it, brother. They're safe. For now. For good. Agent Chen corrected. The Ghost Rider's leadership is done. Ray, 3 of his lieutenants, and 17 other members are all in custody. We've seized enough evidence to put them away for decades. The organization is finished. Marcus wanted to feel relief. Victory. Something. But all he felt was tired. 3 weeks later, the dojo was packed for the tournament. Parents in the stands, kids on the mats, the air filled with excited chatter, and the smell of nervous sweat. Marcus stood at the edge, watching Tommy execute a perfect cut. Life had returned to something resembling normal. The Ghost Riders were gone, dismantled by federal charges, their assets seized, their members scattered or imprisoned. Derek Hutchins had survived his gunshot wound and was awaiting trial. Ray Hutchins was being held without bail in federal custody. Marcus had been cleared of all charges. Self-defense, protection of others. The district attorney had called him a hero. The mayor had given him a commendation. Marcus had thrown the commendation in a drawer and tried to forget about it. Jennifer and her kids had moved to Athens, 90 miles away, where she had a cousin and a fresh start. She called Marcus every few days, updating him on how they were doing. Sophie was in therapy, but improving. Tyler still had nightmares, but they were getting less frequent. Sensei, Tommy called out, after finishing his kata. Did you see? I didn't mess up the turn. I saw. Well done. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The tournament continued. Belt tests, sparring matches, proud parents taking photos. This was why he'd come back to Whitmore. This was what mattered. Not the violence, not the war, but this, teaching kids discipline, confidence, respect, giving them tools to protect themselves and others. After the tournament ended, and the last students filtered out, Marcus locked up the dojo and walked out onto Main Street. The sun was setting, painting Whitmore in golden light. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Sophie wants to know if you'll come visit us next month. She wants to show you her new school and introduce you to her friends. Said she tells everyone about the black belt who saved her mama. Marcus typed back, I'll be there. Tell her I said hi. He pocketed his phone and started walking toward his As he did, he passed the hardware store, the diner, Betty's hair salon. People waved. Some called out greetings. A few thanked him. Whitmore had changed since that afternoon 3 weeks ago. The town knew what had happened. Or at least, they knew the sanitized version. And they knew that Marcus Stone had stood up when no one else would. But Marcus didn't feel like a hero. Heroes were supposed to feel different, weren't they? Supposed to find closure, resolution, peace. He just felt like a man who'd done what needed doing. No more. No less. As he reached his truck, he saw a figure leaning against it. Sheriff Breslin, in civilian clothes, looking as tired as Marcus felt. Tom, Marcus, Breslin pushed off the truck. Thought you might want to know Ray Hutchins pleaded guilty today. All charges. Took a deal to avoid the death penalty. He'll die in prison. Marcus nodded. Good. You okay? I'm fine. That's what everyone says who isn't fine. Breslin studied him. You know, in 23 years of law enforcement, I've never seen anything like what you did. Most people would have walked away. Would have said it wasn't their problem. Most people didn't have a little girl run into their dojo, begging for help. Still, Breslin was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. Glad you came back to Whitmore after everything you've been through. This town is better for it. Yeah. Well, Whitmore's home. That it is. Breslin extended his hand. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. They shook. Two men who understood the cost of standing between evil and the innocent. After Breslin left, Marcus climbed into his truck, but didn't start the engine right away. He just sat there watching the sun set over Whitmore, thinking about Sophie's bright eyes, and Tyler's shy smile and Jennifer's gratitude, thinking about how a single moment, a terrified child bursting through a door, could change everything. War had followed him home from Iraq. He'd thought he'd left it behind, buried it under kata and classes and the quiet rhythms of small-town life. But some wars never ended. They just found new battlefields. And maybe that was okay. Maybe that's what it meant to be the person people called when darkness came knocking, to stand in the gap, to be the one who didn't look away. Marcus started the engine and drove home, the Georgia night settling in around him. Tomorrow there would be more students to teach, more belts to test, more kids learning that strength wasn't just about fighting. It was about knowing when to fight, and what was worth fighting for. And if another child ever ran through his door crying for help, he'd be ready, because that's what black belts did. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves, no matter the cost. 6 months later, Epilogue, the moving truck, pulled up in front of the dojo on a Saturday morning in March. Marcus looked up from sweeping the mats. Surprised. Jennifer stepped out of the driver's seat. Sophie and Tyler tumbling out behind her. Marcus. Sophie ran toward him and he caught her in a hug. Sophie, what are you doing here? Jennifer walked over, a nervous smile on her face. Athens was nice, but it didn't feel like home. Sophie couldn't stop talking about Whitmore, about you, about her friends here, and I realized we were running, still running, from Derek, from everything. Jennifer, but we don't have to run anymore, because of you. She met his eyes. So we're moving back, if that's okay. I got a job at the county hospital nursing position, and I found a house on Oak Street. Nothing fancy, but it's ours. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been tight since that first day. Since Sophie's terrified face in his doorway. Of course it's okay. More than okay. Tyler tugged on Marcus's gait. Can I take karate? Mama said I could if you said yes. Marcus looked down at the 5-year-old who'd lived through more trauma than most adults. Absolutely, you'll start in the beginner class. I think you'll be good at it. Really? Sophie was already chattering about her friends, about school, about everything she'd missed. The trauma was still there. Marcus could see it in the way she stayed close to her mother, the way her eyes darted to the door. But she was healing. That evening, after helping Jennifer move boxes into her new house, Marcus returned to the dojo. The sun was setting, painting everything in warm light. Sarah met him at the door. So I heard the Reeves family is back. They are. That's good. Sophie's a special kid. Sarah paused. And Jennifer. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What about her? Oh, come on. The way she looks at you, the way you look at her. Sarah. I'm just saying. Marcus, you saved her life. You saved her kids. And now she's moved back to Whitmore. That means something. Marcus didn't have an answer for that. Didn't know if he wanted one. Time will tell, he said finally. Sarah smiled. Yes. I suppose it will. That night, Marcus stood alone in his dojo, going through his forms in the darkness. The movements were meditation, muscle memory, a way to quiet the noise in his head. And for the first time in a long time, the noise was quiet. The nightmares from Fallujah had faded. The ghosts that had haunted him, the villages they couldn't save, the families they'd failed, were still there, but softer now, more manageable. Because he'd saved one family, one woman, 2 children. It wasn't redemption, wasn't absolution, but it was something. Marcus finished his kata, bowed to the empty room and turned off the lights. Outside, Whitmore slept peacefully, and somewhere in a house on Oak Street, 2 children slept safely, no longer afraid, because a black belt had kept his promise, and sometimes that was enough.